In April of 1941, the sky over Athens was a place of collapsing defenses and tightening pressure. German fighters moved across Greece in disciplined formations, sweeping aside what little resistance the Allies could mount. RAF squadrons, exhausted from weeks of retreat and constant flight operations, climbed back into the air with aircraft that were worn from desert service and strained by makeshift repairs. It was in this fragile airspace that one pilot rose above the breaking front. Using a maneuver few of his peers understood and none had been formally taught, he turned gravity into a weapon and timing into survival. By the end of a single afternoon, he would bring down 6 German fighters, demonstrating what a hurricane could accomplish in the hands of a pilot who understood every inch of its behavior. His name was Marmaduke Pat Pattle, and his final full day of combat would become one of the most remarkable episodes in the air war over the Mediterranean. The story of how Pattle reached that moment does not begin with drama or ambition, but in the quiet openness of the South African highlands. Born in the Orange Free State in 1914, he grew up surrounded by long horizons and a culture shaped by self-reliance. His early years were not defined by aviation or by dreams of military glory, but by practical work and an instinctive understanding of machinery. When he began flight training in Johannesburg, the aircraft available to him were already old, their structures stiff and their engines temperamental. These machines forced their pilots to develop a keen sensitivity to the smallest change in tone or vibration. Pattle learned to listen to the aircraft as though it were a living thing, and this habit would stay with him throughout his career. Instructors recognized that his hands were steady, his choices quick but never rushed, and his reactions unusually calm for a young pilot. When he joined the Royal Air Force and was posted to the Middle East, he brought these qualities into a theater defined by harsh conditions and constant improvisation. North Africa tested both pilots and machines. Sand worked its way into every mechanical joint, and heat wore down the aircraft faster than maintenance crews could repair them. Yet Pattle adapted without complaint. His logbooks from these early years are sparse, offering little more than essential details: patrol altitudes, sortie durations, ammunition counts. They reveal no flair for storytelling, but among those who flew beside him, a pattern became clear. Pattle possessed a rare ability to remain fully aware of his surroundings while focusing intensely on the immediate task. He did not overcommit. He did not waste energy. He did not allow fear, excitement, or frustration to intrude on the logic of combat. His quiet professionalism earned him a position of leadership at a time when the RAF's responsibilities were expanding rapidly. By 1941, he commanded No. 33 Squadron, operating from makeshift airstrips among the hills and plains of Greece. The campaign there deteriorated almost as soon as it began. German forces, advancing through Yugoslavia and into Greece, brought with them the full weight of the Luftwaffe. Their aircraft were newer, faster, and supported by disciplined ground controllers. The Hurricanes flown by the RAF had proven effective in North Africa, but in Greece they were forced into a role for which they were never intended, fighting enemies who enjoyed the advantages of altitude, numbers, and tactical initiative. In these conditions, RAF pilots needed more than courage. They needed a method. Traditional horizontal fighting left the Hurricanes exposed. Turning battles favored the Messerschmitt Bf 109, whose superior climb rate and acceleration allowed German pilots to dictate the flow of the engagement. What the Hurricane did possess, however, was strength and stability in a dive. Its structure could withstand angles and speeds that caught many opponents off guard. Pattle recognized this potential earlier than most. Again and again, he resisted the urge to turn inside his opponent and instead used height and timing to launch quick, decisive attacks, withdrawing upward before the enemy could respond. There was no doctrine to describe this yet. What he practiced intuitively is what modern analysts recognize as the foundation of energy-based aerial combat. Maintain altitude, commit with overwhelming speed, and refuse to stay in any fight longer than a few seconds. By the middle of April, the battle for Athens intensified. German aircraft crossed the Attic Peninsula daily, targeting ports, roads, and defensive positions. Each morning, Hurricanes scrambled to intercept or disrupt the enemy's approach. Each evening, mechanics worked under dim lights to patch together the aircraft for the next day's missions. Pattle often flew multiple sorties, stepping from debriefings to cockpit checks without pause. His pilots looked to him not for speeches, but for the steady confidence he projected through action. On the morning of April 19th, the Luftwaffe launched a significant attack toward Athens. The Hurricanes of No. 33 and No. 80 squadrons took off to meet them. From a distance, the German formation appeared as a layered structure of Bf 110 twin-engine fighters and bomber elements moving with practiced cohesion. The Hurricanes, climbing at a disadvantage, attempted to gain whatever positional advantage they could before the inevitable engagement. Pattle maneuvered toward the sun's glare, searching for an opening where he could strike without exposing himself to immediate retaliation. He saw that opening minutes later. A Bf 110 formation passed beneath him, close enough that their shadows flickered across the terrain in broken patterns. Pattle pushed the nose of his Hurricane downward, building speed rapidly. The airframe vibrated, and the controls stiffened under the pressure of the dive. When the German aircraft filled his sight, he fired a short, controlled burst. The Bf 110 fell away in a trail of smoke. Without waiting to confirm the result, Pattle used his excess speed to climb out of reach. Moments later, he repeated the attack on another twin-engine fighter. It was a clean, efficient sequence. 2 strikes, 2 victories, and the engagement dissolved into scattered battles as the formations broke apart. The afternoon brought no relief. German aircraft returned in greater numbers, forcing the Hurricanes back into the air for another interception. Despite the fatigue of the morning and the physical toll of the campaign, Pattle joined the sortie. Some accounts suggest he was suffering from illness that day, but once airborne, his focus remained unmistakable. He climbed as high as the Hurricane would allow, rising above the main body of the developing chaos. Below, RAF aircraft were already embroiled in a desperate fight. A Bf 109 closed in on a Hurricane from No. 80 Squadron, its pilot waiting for the perfect firing angle. Pattle saw the threat and committed instantly. The dive was steep, and the closing speed immense. His burst struck the German fighter and forced it to break away violently, giving the British pilot a chance to recover control. Pattle pulled up and extended his climb, regaining altitude for another pass. The pattern continued. Observe, commit, strike, withdraw. A second Bf 109, climbing toward a British bomber, entered his field of vision. Pattle dove again, and the German aircraft spiraled downwards. A third opportunity emerged minutes later. This time, the attack required a more precise angle, but the principle was the same. He descended with decisive speed, fired once, and allowed gravity and momentum to carry him through the danger zone before climbing out of reach. By the end of the engagement, he had secured at least 4 victories in that afternoon alone. Combined with his 2 from the morning, his tally reached 6 for the day, an extraordinary achievement under any circumstances, but remarkable in a campaign defined by strategic collapse. It was during these final days of the Battle of Greece that the RAF situation became untenable. Ground forces were withdrawing, supply lines were collapsing, and the Luftwaffe grew stronger with each passing day. Yet the Hurricanes continued their flights, defending whatever pockets of resistance remained. On April 20th, the day after his 6 victories, Pattle took off once more to defend the skies over the Piraeus harbor. German aircraft pressed their advantage relentlessly, sending formations of Bf 110s and bombers toward the remaining Allied positions. During one of these engagements, Pattle's Hurricane was seen entering combat against several German fighters. Moments later, witnesses saw his aircraft falling out of control. Whether he had been hit directly or incapacitated by debris remains unclear. His Hurricane crashed into the waters of the harbor. There was no chance of rescue. He was 26 years old. The withdrawal from Greece soon afterward led to the destruction or loss of many combat records. As a result, the full tally of Pattle's achievements cannot be reconstructed with absolute certainty. Historians estimate that he may have accumulated more than 40 victories, perhaps even surpassing 50, placing him among the highest-scoring RAF aces in history. But numbers alone cannot explain the significance of his contribution. His willingness to adapt, his understanding of energy-based maneuvering, and his ability to remain calm in the most dangerous conditions set him apart in a theater where few advantages existed. The legacy of Pat Pattle lies not in the fame he never sought, but in the lessons embedded in his final days. His use of vertical maneuvering anticipated the tactics that would later define jet combat. His understanding of timing and speed offered a blueprint for pilots flying aircraft at the edge of their limits, and his quiet discipline demonstrated that, even in a campaign overshadowed by retreat and overwhelming odds, the clarity of a single pilot could reshape the course of a battle, if only for a moment. Today, when historians revisit the air war over Greece, they find in Pattle's story an example of what happens when instinct, training, and opportunity converge in rare harmony. His 6 victories on April 19th endure as a testament to the potential of a pilot who refused to fight on his enemy's terms. His death the following day is a reminder of how narrow the margins were in those desperate skies, and how high the cost was for those who carried the heaviest responsibilities. The man who understood the hurricane so deeply left behind, a lesson that outlived the aircraft, the campaign, and even the world he fought to defend. Mastery in the air begins not with speed or firepower, but with clarity of mind, and with the courage to act when the moment, however brief, reveals itself.